Hey everybody, I'm Nico.
And I'm TK.
And that does make this, in fact, X's for Podcast, your weekly rundown on all your favorite comics. We love to bring
Or maybe
you.
they're not your favorite.
Maybe they're not your favorite comics. And when that happens, that's your problem. It's my problem. It's our problem. But it's a problem we're going to get through together.
We're going to work through this.
The first thing that I think about when I think about the end of January on the comic calendar is my first thought is always, okay, what event are we ramping up toward, or are we burning off from? What event are we stuck with a few pieces of? But like January for comics is this like, it's what your teachers have to do with June. It's the concepts that were just like left over that there was no other room for in the school year. It's just like, oh, put it here real quick.
It's odd because you would think from many of us are just stuck inside doing nothing but it snowed where I am today. So like literally stuck inside doing nothing but reading comics. You would think we would be winter blockbuster people. Like God love a summer comics blockbuster, but even the sexiest patio with all the room for me to hang out and bring a bunch of books and sit out there and read just can't get me through a blood hunt. Like that's because that's going to happen maybe 2 days out of a whole summer where I can sit with a bunch of comics. And then for the rest of the summer, I'm just like, I don't want to fucking read Blood Hunt. But in the dead of winter, when everything is dark and miserable and horrible, to take my mind off of looking out the window or feeling the cold, yeah, you could probably convince me to read a big to pay money for a big crossover event, buy the books and just sit inside and read them. There's tons of days where I would do that. So it's just odd to me that we don't do more winter crossovers. We get a few. It's usually things like Judgment Day and Sins of Sin. Well, Judgment Day was huge. Sins of Sinister is more like what I'm thinking about, where it's not really a big event. I don't know. The summer blockbuster is weird, but the winter kind of, it's no longer Christmas. And are we doing anything for Valentine's Day? Sort of fallow period is kind of odd. We, turns out for DC, are doing something for Valentine's Day this year. A little early, but here we are.
And it kind of gets me a little confused sometimes because, you know, we talked about how like Halloween comics kind of let us down when they just trail off into forever, when the Halloween books never end and they never come to a conclusive, you know, oh, it's still spooky season. That's why I made the joke that like as a February birthday, I'm used to going to see horror movies for my birthday because like horror movies die off forever and, you know, I mean, get burned off in the winter months forever, and that's what happens to horror comics. They like die off in February. And so like I kind of went into today expecting some cool number ones ramping up the summer, expecting some like late stuff because I was thinking about it, and I just was talking with super amazing show contributor Tori, and I was saying about how I love this oeuvre of Elektra as Daredevil that we've had that it's over so many books, but like Gang War is not its own title. And I think they thought that Punisher book, whenever they solicited it, it was following up on how big Punisher had been. So Elektra fighting Punisher made a lot of sense. And so I do find myself kind of thrown for a loop at the January list right now.
What is specifically throwing you for a loop in the context of that, particularly Daredevil instance?
You know, one of the things that I think the Daredevil situation is a little bit more guilty of than other books is it's so pinned on that event would keep going in some way. And, you know, we still see it with Percy's Wolverine continuing.
Yeah, Percy's Wolverine has not stopped from Krakoa's start through Helverine. It is, I mean, like, there's a little bit of a diversion, but that's a great example because, like, Ghost Rider stuff became accessory to Wolverine via Percy, and while technically we closed out the Wolverine Krakoa storyline, one of those closeouts was Akihiro being mutilated and murdered such that he could come back for Halloween. So Percy, I mean, Percy's been going for a hot minute. Another one is Scarlet Witch. You know, Steve Orlando, I think, has gotten a much better deal than Erica Schultz, but Erica Schultz kind of got the mini Orlando, where like Steve Orlando has been
a real
writing,
Tampa.
He's been writing for we're closing in on 3 years of Scarlet Witch through multiple books. Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver, back to Scarlet Witch, which was just announced would end in 10. So he's gotten, I want to say, over 30 issues or close to 30 issues writing this character. Erica Schultz has gotten fewer, but it's been the same process. But it has been a little bit like starting it in Gang War has made it a little Andrew saying Scarlet Witch is a badass bitch. I could not agree more. Don't always love the Orlando, but I've been happy to see her getting a consistent publishing situation, semi-consistent. I think it would have been ideal to have it all just be one book. I think it's been great that a bunch of them were longer books, not total minis, but maxis, not ongoings. And Erica Schultz has gotten kind of the worst end of that deal, which is 3, 4, or 5 issue miniseries that all could just be one book. It could have just been called Daredevil, and it could have had a Gang War crossover, and it could have had the Punisher storyline, and this could also be a Daredevil book that we're talking about, the one that is being published now. But instead she got 4 separate minis in varying kind of degrees of overlap. Yeah, I don't know. It also feels weird to do it all with Daredevil coming out soon.
I'm of a couple of minds here. Okay, I love your points. I love your points. I love your hat. I love your points and your hat.
Do you know I'm wearing my
I see it.
Okay, good.
I see it, and
it's so cold.
I look forward to also being in mine.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not professional, guys. It is freezing.
Well, okay. Also, hold on. So I got hired to.
Oh, that's the worst.
Do one job.
Hired.
No, right? I got hired to do one job, and then I was basically like, "What if I convinced you guys to let part of my job just be what I do for this channel, full time?" And my job really went for it. So I basically do this professionally as well now.
Which, how dare you?
I don't hate it. And I'm always still just in my polos.
I was gonna say, yeah, like, it's always the you do look like you're ready to take somebody out for golf at any minute.
And can I be honest? As long as Bottom Golf Dad is ready to come with me, I'm ready to go. I'm kidding, but no, I'm not kidding. But no,
he's watching. You just know it.
Hey, Bottom Golf Dad. So Jesus, I do think that the core of where we're at with comics is I want to take a moment and I really do. I want to unplug the system because push the button. Don't push the button. Flip the station. Change the channel. Push the button. Don't push the button. Flip the station, change the channel. Listen, everybody comes to Hollywood, and the thing that I'm stuck on here is I do want to start seeing weekly events happen more. I want to see weekly events that fly by. I went to go reread Bailey's stuff for today's Spider-Boy coverage. Realized how much I read that I was not going to reread all of that again, and that he had so many appearances so quickly. And I don't know if you've ever read Dan Slott's thing on it, and I tend to agree. I really do. I'm not. You can be a Dan Slott apologist or not. I'm not here to fucking argue with you, but my opinion, not you in particular. I'm here to argue with you full time. Davin, the wall is large and merciful.
Davin, I gotta tell you, Nico Backwall will always makes me horny. Me too. Walking into his room, walking into the office, it's like you guys. It's bigger than you think. Him. Yeah. Yeah, that's not half of it, everybody.
That's 1/3 of this set of shelves.
Yeah, that's not half of it.
So, I do love that conversation. Thank you so much.
And much love to HOB for all the hard work he did getting that set up.
Yeah, he's a cool guy.
He's a great guy.
So, but Davin, anytime, I mean, listen, I got to be honest. I'm going to do a tour of this trade wall at some point. The trades, the omnis. I got some stuff I want to show off. I got the DC versus Marvel and Marvel versus DC omnis that, like, the day they went on sale, they were immediately worth 3 times as much on Amazon. Super excited to unbox them, go through some cool stuff with this guy. But part of where I really do want to see this change is because, like, I'm so fucked over by the state of comics. I think about how much I'm really trying to find a way to say, like, why do we need 22? I guess because money. It's so tough because, like, what I want to say is I don't need Uncanny to be 22 pages every month, and I don't need it to be $3.99 every month. If you gave me DC Action Comics lead time and you said to me that this month's 21 is going to be 21 special and it's going to cost $9.99, I'd hate it. But you know what? I think I would like it a lot more than you giving me Uncanny 21 and a 4-issue mini and an annual and 2 event tie-ins and a crossover. I don't want them all, and I want it all in the numbering.
I mean, this is a thing that we have talked about a lot and just kind of speculated on. And I was talking to a friend about this a few days ago. Like, I still am just, it still kind of feels like the ultimate truth. Neither of the big two will ever outsell manga. So that's thing number one. Like, we're publishing graphic novels and graphic media. The biggest one for now is already, the trends could change and we could go back to floppies at some point. But already, like, if you guys want to see numbers, if you want to start blowing people's minds, quit this business and just publish manga. And if you're not going to do that, maybe take some lessons from manga, which, like, you know, a lot of stuff gets published in magazines and then bound into its individual things. So you have things like Shonen Jump that are a bunch of different stories that get published, and then the individual stories get bound into volumes that you pick up one or the other or both. And sometimes I feel like I would rather X Magazine with some shorter, you know, and I would pay $10. I would pay $10 a week for X Magazine. If I then didn't have to go buy X-Force, X-Factor, X-Men, Exceptional X-Men, Uncanny X-Men, on and on and on. And then, you know, depending on which one I love, I would pick up the trade. This is where I get a little iffy, because part of the thing I do love about manga is the compact format, and like it's built to that. So it would be difficult to move comics to that format. But a lot of the stuff I would probably buy digitally in digital trade paperback form. If I liked the full arc that ran in X Magazine, Avengers Magazine, you know, Heroes for Hire Magazine, which could have all the street stuff.
Well, let me challenge in a positive way. Excited, love this. How would you feel about a monthly original trade? How would you feel?
I could get into that too.
Yeah, like just a $12.99 X-Men Unlimited drops at the beginning of every month. It's always 128 pages.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't hate that idea. I just know I don't love that we are continuing to do this. So like I can't say how I would feel, you know, 2026 was all that. I don't know how I would feel at the end of 2026. But when you put the idea to me, like, yeah, can I imagine like either digitally or popping up to Coast City Comics in Portland, Maine, every Wednesday to just pick up my, you know, my one big trade for that month for that particular slice of the Marvel universe. Yeah, I could potentially get into it.
Man, I really could too.
And like we're seeing kind of the bad reflection of that in this month's or in this week's books that we picked to review, because we got not that, but like something in that the redheaded stepchild of that family.
You know, I do want to mention that one of my favorite people on the planet Earth is actually a redheaded stepchild, and I'm always fascinated by how that. Oh, that's why, because 2 of the kids are redheads and only one is a brunette. I'm like, they outnumber. Oh, that's an unusual Irish people. So the other side of it that I do want to pivot to is one of the things that I find is becoming draining on my psyche, my wallet with all of this stuff is like, we blew off that Rogue #1 because it looked like Frank Cho, just like kind of like sex comics, like. And as somebody who loves a lot of that work, unfortunately, just for aesthetic purposes, I really enjoy the way it looks. I found myself hard pressed to push to cover it based on that cover, and then the reviews have been amazing. So I've been sort of confused as to what to do, and then this storm came out, and I just want to be clear, like, we have made some passing comments about every sexual. I am so sorry. I just want to say, Andrew, I love all the stuff, but like, I'm also a human man, and like sometimes I'm just like, oh, I'm gonna blush too much, and so sometimes I blush too much. So I just want to be late for my brains too. But one of the things that
me.
No, you do, or you wouldn't be here. So, but one of the things that we had happen with the Storm book is like, we're in this wealth of Storm, so much Storm. We made these comments about like every form of art deserves to like get their like their C and D level stories, and we make that comment about a lot of queer books. This was not that. This was not a C or D level story. I thought this was a really great issue. I thought it was like a classic annual. I don't know why this wasn't a Storm annual, but it did nothing. It went nowhere. It didn't really tell me anything, but that's okay.
It is and it's not okay. This is one of those tough things where I don't want to take wind out of anybody's sails, and the incredible list of Black writers and artists who created this book. It is just an all-star gallery. And so I don't want to take the wind out of anybody's sails. And again, we're talking about two books here. This Storm, Lifedream, and Power Company, that are Black characters, Black creators. We're not the best authorities to be talking about that full experience. So I'm limiting some of the stuff that I personally am sharing, because I'm not here to do a lot of critique about stuff that is not my community and is not my experience. And if you are somebody for whom this is your community and is your experience, and you would like to revisit this with us, please reach out, message either of us on Blue Sky or message the show.
Just to be clear, like, one of the things that I'm always here to talk about is everybody is welcome to their identity and stuff, but Celia Cruz and I are not the same kinds of Latin backgrounds infused with Afro heritage.
Yeah.
And so, like, as proud as I am of being a Cuban man, I am not here to claim one iota of the right to discuss the Blackness on this page. I love it. It's so great. Unapologetic.
Yeah, I mean, if we were talking about Latinx anthology, and part of it was, I mean, because you are white presenting, but like if it was about coming from a family, like from a Latinx family, that's your family, like that's an experience that you can speak to. So there's experience stuff here that we can't speak to, but I was so staggered by the list of credits on this book. Just a phenomenal list. And I'm not going to list everybody, but it's funny because John Jennings is on both of the, he's on Storm and he's on
that's
Power
awesome.
Company. I mean, it's an incredible list. I can't think of the last time I read an anthology book from Marvel that's actually not an anthology book. Each person was given a chapter of one story to write.
Heroes for Hope from 1986, that book that has George R.R. Martin writing alongside Chris Claremont. It's that.
Yeah, in some ways I'm like, well, at least this is different than when we do a Voices or something and they're all these kind of siloed stories. But this is a lot of creatives for me to believe that they all worked together. if any of these creators wants to come into the world or come into the conversation and say like, no, we actually all got on a Slack or we all got into a room and we storyboarded this together and we said, because that happens with TV shows, it's not impossible for me to believe, but also we generally know for the most part with comics, when there's a story like that, somebody tells you what the story is going to be, and then you might not actually end up writing that much of it. Even if you get a writing credit, like oftentimes an editor has basically said, here, all the story beats, I guess flesh them out, but like, you know, you're essentially getting paid to put your name on a thing. I don't know what happened here, but I don't know who wrote this story, because this is one fluid story. Does it have slight diversions where I can see how somebody might have gotten to put their artistic spin on it? Absolutely. And visually 100%. The artists really got to, but for the writers especially, there's a full plot to this that I believe either they had to have written as a team, in which case talk about it, or one person wrote and then the rest of them flourished, which is kind of not what I want for an anthology book of Black creators, which is something we don't get enough of unless it's Marvel Voices. Legacy is what we usually call the Black one, or Heritage. No, it's Legacy, right?
And then the gay one is Pride, and then we alternate between recognizing Asian culture, indigenous culture, and
Latinx.
Every now and then, I'm convinced one day I'm gonna like open my previews guide, and it's gonna be like, "Oppa, we're doing Greek culture."
I mean, it'd be amazing. I'm still waiting for the Jewish one.
It's gonna be me and all of my cousins just going "Oppa, Oppa, Oppa, Oppa" the entire time.
That feels plausible and realistic. So yeah, we don't get books chock full of Black talent very often. And then on top of that, one thing I really noticed when you look at all the writing credits, these people aren't getting long runs at Marvel. And sometimes that's cute. Sometimes it's like, oh, cute guest appearance. But these aren't people that are even getting the Erica Schultz or the Steve Orlando. Black writers and artists are underrepresented at Marvel. Although I will say, Aletha E. Martinez has a lot of Marvel credits and a lot of Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur, which I love. But again, not big runs, not current runs. And it's just like, again, not to rain on anybody's parade, but when I look at the whole picture, again, I want to kind of admonish Marvel, not any of these writers, and say, like, you put together all this great talent and then you kind of put them in a specific box, and then you're keeping them in the box because I'm looking at their credits and they don't get the same work that Steve Orlando gets. They're not getting the same work that Ben Percy gets. They're not getting the same work that Jerry Duggan gets. And all of that I don't love. If I set all that aside, I loved the story. It was really fun. It was really cool. But I have to critique that stuff because it sucks and it's not fair to the Black community. It's not fair to all of the amazing Black writers and artists. And it doesn't look cute for Marvel publishing and editorial.
I also think that there's this humongous error that we make that I'm not here for anymore. And not you and I we've never made a mistake in our lives. No. But the mistake that culturally the world and comics make, for my sake, is there's too much focus on the Black experience. And fuck you very much, because the Black experience is folded in of 1,000 cultural experiences within being Black. So there is the African experience, there is the island experience, there is the Afro-Latin experience. And so, like, sometimes when you've got a character like Storm, who so many people want to get to craft of all cultures, of all backgrounds, of all experiences, Storm winds up being this catch-all for everything that is a strong, dynamic Black woman at Marvel for so many people. The same way Northstar was all of that for all gay people for so long. And you wind up in these patterns where, like, I hate to say it, but the one mistake I found about this issue was telling me anything about Storm. No, thank you. I did love that the second page went out of its way to say, no, we all know this already, but my dear character.
Yeah, then why do it?
I'm saying it to the character on the page, not a human being. My dear, then why say it?
But then also, like, editorial, like, free up a page for one of these writers, because
Well, like Davin said earlier, Night Thrasher, what a great character that gets no respect in the comics, no love in the comics. Absolutely. Like they use him for like cool video game appearances. And that's not enough to justify the inclusion of a black character whose identity was centralized to the era he's from.
Yeah. And, you know, where Night Thrasher goes, Silhouette ought to follow. Another amazing black character who is also disabled. So at least we get, you know, some intersectionality. This was a really cool book. I mean, I do 100% agree about. Is there anybody on the planet who needs to know who Storm is? Is there anybody? Also, like, do you need to explain this if we're not doing anything with it? I'm glad this person was not on this book because, again, it meant that another black person got to work on this book. But Ewing has been writing the definitive what's going on in Storm's life plot beats up until this most recent, up until Krakoa ended. Ewing got a lot of possession over Storm and really put his stamp on Storm's background. And that's okay. That's great. He clearly loved the character and had a lot of respect for her, and really wanted to showcase that he thought of her as the Regent of Soul, that he thought of her as this kind of larger than the solar system character. Where was all that?
Where was that deeper sense of who she is, like within the scope of the Marvel universe, I guess?
Yeah.
Because this book provided me a cultural understanding of Storm, the bold, brilliant black woman. Like, it's something Kevo and I were talking about. We've been watching the 911 franchise, having a really great time, really enjoying it, actually. And you have so many incredible performers of color in the spectrum of that show. And as Lone Star comes to a close this month, we were saying how we would love for Gina Torres to find her way onto the LA-based original. But one of the realities is TV doesn't really have room for there to be 3 and 4 and 5 fabulous black women leads on a show like that. Unfortunately, there isn't that room for the accessibility. So you wind up with tentpole characters. You wind up with, you might not say that Tommy is the exact parallel of Athena, you know, from Lone Star to 911. But you wind up with an understanding of, well, that is the character who carries the banner of strong heteronormative black woman, because they both do have incredible room for fabulous queer women of color, and I'm here to praise all of it. But like, it does sometimes feel like instead of treating it as Marvel has room in each title for these characters, there's only room at Marvel for one fabulous black woman, one spectacular white queer male, one dynamic bisexual Latin man, and that's it. And then we're done.
Yeah, you know, let Cecilia Reyes put a force field around the Earth and become Earth's protector for a little while. I mean, there's so many options, and you're 100% right. It so often feels like, you know, oh, Bishop is getting highlighted for the next like half year, so you know we're not going to see Sync anywhere, and it just is a little bit silly. You know, I know if we really got down to it and burst into the offices and demanded answers and put everybody under truth serum, and somebody will say, oh, well, demographics bear out and people don't, but it's kind of horseshit. It is, I mean, like, make better art. And I don't know, just comics are never doing so well under just Bishop being the only black man around that you can convince me that like that's the thing that's keeping this medium from, you know, from soaring to new heights, is that like, oh, if we have too many black people will run away from reading comics. No, comics is just kind of a niche medium overall.
Like, seriously, a third of the readers of comics I know are black.
Yeah, exactly. So,
service
you know,
audience better. God, how is that so hard? Like,
I don't know, but apparently it is.
And it's one of those things where like I'm also lucky enough to be playing through Final Fantasy VII remake right now, and seeing what happens when people that love what they make something they love is incredible. and it is so empowering to see, you know, this exploration of Cloud dancing around in a dress for an extended period of time, where many people would have thought that was just a dumb joke. They really did try to make it something kind of cool, you know, with his varying different, but there is something to be said about saying, what if we tried to make something that the audience really wants? And I do think that's what Storm did here. I do think maybe a character like Cecilia Reyes, a Night Thrasher, another fabulous black character who does not get anywhere near enough love, could have just benefited from, you know, enough love.
Yeah, I mean, publish these Storm issues, of course. You know, she's the one, but like, yeah, a Night Thrasher book could, and I think there even was one recently, but it was so poorly promoted. Yeah, I don't know. We can do better. We can do more.
And that's even where I feel kind of like, I guess, I'm not, my advice is not for black audiences or black writers or black creatives. It is for the editorial board at Marvel that is not seeing this and not jumping on it, not, you know, accessing that powerful current of readership that loves these characters. Because, you know, I give Storm Lifedream, cute title, I give it a B+. I probably would have given it an A- if it was a Storm annual. If it had been 2 issues, it would have gotten a D instantly. If they had tried to stretch this out and pad it, I would have not been happy. But single issue, a little bit longer than normal, B+. But if it had been the Storm annual, again, A-.
Yeah. I just don't know what Lifedream is. Yeah, I fully, like, I don't, this also, it's because it's like, it's kind of a Voices. But what the fuck does Voices mean? What are we doing with Voices?
I don't know.
Voices should be the cherry on top of a fully diverse slate of books and writers and everything. And that should be your victory lap because you've accomplished something. It shouldn't be your quota fill. And that is what it is. It is their quota fill. Can you believe it? We did it again. We gave you one black book. And then, like, do not bother us again until next year. And it,
you know, they reorder black ink sooner.
It's a pretty horrible time to be noticing that. Night Thrasher did have a 2024 book, yeah. But yeah, do better.
Speaking of do better,
I know what we're talking about next.
I think Spider-Boy did better. Not than Storm, but
no, definitely not than Storm. Yeah.
I want to. Dan Slott about a year ago went on to Hate Base and started talking about how you know, Hate Base, that old social media site we don't use anymore.
Yes.
About how he felt as though people would send him these sort of threatening messages about Spider-Boy, about Bailey getting a title out of Spider-Man. And his response was, guys, they didn't give me more Spider-Man. They didn't say, oh, you're going to write 10 titles. They said, this is where the demand is. Nobody wants a Spider-Man book from you like that anymore. So write this instead. It's what happened, right? I don't pick what books Marvel asks me to write. I have no control over what titles Marvel gives me at, you know, this level where they put all of their effort and money into my career. I get to do what they give me. And so if you are frustrated with Bailey being a success, then the problem sounds to me like you guys are frustrated with the people that buy books around you, because people are Googling Spider-Boy, period. People are writing into Marvel, where is more Spider-Boy, period. And part of it has to do with the fact that Spider-Boy's gimmick is usually a meta context. The whole world forgot about Spider-Boy because he had his thread clipped from the web of Life and Destiny. That's it. And then Spider-Man winds up with double thread and gives his extra thread to Bailey, so everyone will remember Bailey. And now Bailey is a real man and will be remembered and is living that life. The things I don't like about this book are the things I've never liked about Spider-Girl from MC2. What I do like about this book is Bailey kind of sucks. Do you know which way Bailey kind of sucks in? Bailey sucks in that way that I think most 14-year-olds suck. Sorry, 14-year-olds. But you guys think that of 39-year-olds, so I'm not worried about your opinion of me in this moment.
Yeah. Everything you're saying is spot on, except for maybe one thing. So this is where I get a little cloudy with it. I fully believe that people are like, okay, but where's the Spider Boy? Like, I'm 14. I don't care about Spider-Man. I want Spider Boy. I can believe that's a thing. I don't know that I believe that Marvel was like, gosh, we need a Spider Boy. I think Dan Slott, I believe, and I have no idea, and he's saying otherwise, so I'm just talking out of my ass here. Let's be 100% clear. I believe he pitched it because he wanted...
He pitched Spider-Boy, but they were like, oh, give him the book.
Yeah, give him the book, right. I don't know if we have Spider-Boy for the preteens, like early teens and younger. If we have Miles Morales for the teens, the early 20-somethings, probably getting up into your 30s. Again, for the 1000th time on this show, why is Peter Parker not a full-ass fucking adult? What are we doing with Peter Parker, the most popular character at Marvel? What is the point of Peter Parker? What is the point of having Ultimate Spider-Man where he is an adult? What is the point of everything that has happened since One More Day if Peter Parker is whatever the hell he is now?
Meanwhile, have you read Ultimate?
I've not read the most recent issue of Ultimate Spider-Man.
Okay.
I did yell at Jodie Hauser on Blue Sky about how much I love her Renew Your Vows. I mean, like, I like adult Peter Parker and his children. That is really fun to me. And I have no problem with Bailey existing. I guess I kind of do wish this was another Spider-Girl MC2 type situation, which brings me to this particular arc and this particular issue. I always make reference to this. Back in the day, Chris Claremont and somebody else wanted to use Jason Wyngarde's daughter for their villain, and Marvel
somebody else.
Who was it? I forget.
Joe Casey's Uncanny, man.
Oh, God.
Literally one of the most underappreciated runs of any comic ever in the history of the world.
Sometimes when things aren't appreciated, they don't deserve to be.
They're underappreciated because other people get real snitty about them on really cool podcasts, and then everybody think because that guy's right about like 99.9% of everything in the entire world, and he must also be right about this. But my good friends,
no, I know.
Even
TK
it not has a 0.1.
It is good. Chris Claremont and Joe Casey both wanted to use Regan Wyngarde, and Marvel said, no, we cannot possibly imagine how you would say that a character is in two places at once, even though these books are at non-specific times, and we could easily say that they're not happening exactly concurrently, and most comic storylines take place over the course of like one day, so one of them could have been Tuesday, and then she hopped a flight to wherever it was on Thursday, and that's how she's in both books. They said, no, you have to create a new character. So here's why we have two ladies mastermind. Bullseye is currently going through it on the pages of Daredevil while Saladin Ahmed tries to pull together the psychological, the homoerotic, devils, angels, the previous Zdarsky run. Bullseye's having a very serious participation in whatever the hell is going on in Matt's life, which is like a serious shift for the character. And then the two of them are doing goofy fights in Madripoor for
I think this is this is one of those things where I look back and go, you're joking, right? That this is going to get brought up a lot. This other,
which one?
This Spider-Boy arc.
Yeah, I
Daredevil
agree.
Bullseye. I think they might even try to make like an animated crossover out of this.
Yeah, no, I agree. And we're never going to hear about Saladin Ahmed's run again.
Ever again. Can I be honest with you, dude? I don't want to be an idiot, but in 4 issues, I got more Daredevil Bullseye that I wanted than I've gotten from the entire Saladin Ahmed run.
I don't think you're being an idiot.
So good. This is such a bad Spider-Man title, but it's such a good Marvel Street Heroes title.
Yeah, there's something that with also Spider-Girl, great character. Shouldn't have called her Spider-Girl.
She's amazing.
Love Funhouse. Love the mystery of like what is going on with this
Maka
character.
is amazing.
Also, oh God, bummer that. Love you, Dan Slott, for thinking like, hey, Pacific Islander characters deserve representation. I'm always just like, get somebody, like pull somebody in with you to co-write this. I do not want to speculate on what his Pacific Islander name would be. This is really fun. Which, 2 separate points. One, unfortunately, there's some beauty in Ahmed's run. I appreciate what he's doing. I don't think it's all bad. It's not very fun.
That's a great. Yeah, Spider-Boy is literally fun every single page, even the stupid pages.
Yeah. It's not good. It's fun. Daredevil's really fun. I want the slight topic shift, but on topic too. Every day, the more somebody says something, I am a little nervous at how not fun Born Again is setting itself up to be. I didn't realize it was the Punisher showrunner that was doing it.
I only have one nerve. Everything else I'm good about because Vincent D'Onofrio, I have to imagine, because like when I imagine myself, I am Daredevil. But I think as a human, I am Vincent D'Onofrio.
Your outbursts are somewhat D'Onofrian, if I could say so myself.
Quite much at times, and
more than one person has embarrassed you in front of Vanessa, in my experience.
That is correct. And so,
I'll say he's gonna make it fun by being himself.
The cast, I think my version is White Dick in a Snowstorm, but like I really feel like the overall version of this is the thing that Vincent D'Onofrio was saying, but without any of the sexuality, because a lot of these actors are sort of like implying that there's a sexiness to this season, and I am convinced that this season is going to be about as sexy as a wet snow boot. I see where they're putting in humor. I see where they're putting in romance. I see where they're putting in action drama. They're saying that there's an uncut shot so long that intactivists will be impressed. And yet at the same time, I cannot think for even one moment that there will be a single sexiness about this entire
I think the reason they're saying that is because they know how the chemistry that Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio have playing these characters, and the two of them are really talking about that. But the showrunner, Dan, so it's a D name, I think it's Dan something.
Oh my god, and he was like, there's too much dialogue in the Netflix version, and I'm like,
he seems so joyless, and he keeps talking about how grounded it is. And I'm just really worried that there's going to be...
people that played Marvel vs. Capcom for the story.
Yeah, I don't know. I am a little worried. And just like Spider-Boy and the Daredevil Bullseye component of it has been a very important reminder that you can be street level and still be really fun and a little bit silly, but somehow insightful. I don't know, like... Dan Slott's problem has never been that he doesn't get the bigger picture. It's that sometimes he goes off on really horrid little tangents. And he doesn't get it right 100% of the time. and he can't take the critique, literally cannot take the critique that he didn't get it right. He gets it right a bunch of the time. I mean, like, I will love the man forever for being the only person who's not named Tom DeFalco who gets to write Mayday Parker for any significant amount of time, and really tried to pull her into the Spider-Verse, which could have been a whole thing, but then it got turned into something else. Do you see we're getting like a blood vampire spider person?
I'm stuck at the moment on. Did you see what character did you see what character is entering Spider-Verse versus Venomverse?
Is it on that cover? Did I just miss it? Who?
Did you see Rec Rap is entering Spider-Verse versus
No,
Venomverse?
but that's amazing. I do love Rec Rap.
I've hit a point where I'm just like, you know, when you bring in a hyper exaggerative version of a person to be a person, it's always like really funny. Like to have if you were trying to joke that there was a guy in a D&D group who was just too sexy and it made all of the boyfriends nervous, you should cast Joe Manganiello. It is like the most on the nose eye roll of a moment, and you're like, okay, but how often does life line up that perfectly? They had to be sitting in that editorial office and they were like, well, obviously Spider-Verse versus Venomverse is the only choice that we have left. We have to do it. And they go to do it, and then somebody goes Rec Rap, and everybody just goes. For the rest of the day, they leave. They get sandwiches from Jersey Mike's. Everybody just gets Jersey Mike's sandwiches. It's amazing. And gosh, this is, although I do realize that the obvious next thing is Maximum Carnage verse.
I don't know. Or I keep waiting for them to be like, we're going back to basics. Which is why I'm always like, Mayday's time can't be far behind.
One Spider-Man, all the others are dead.
No, like verse basics.
If they call the next one Super Smash Spider-Verse Melee,
yes,
I will lose my shit.
Yeah.
Here's what I will say.
Yeah.
As a guy who loves way too much of this canon, knows way too much of this canon, I love the way they said, who cares? Who cares about the capital cities? Who cares about the hand? I wish it wasn't the Gaping Maw. The Gaping Maw feels like a DuckTales Scrooge McDuck thing. And if you guys know me, Life and Times of Scrooge McDuck is like one of the greatest comics ever published in the history of mankind. But it's a little too silly. If you had made this, I swear to God, if the joke was it was a suburb of Kunlun, I would not have bat my eyes. There are such minor changes you could make to this arc, and it would be an event. It would be a summer event led by Spider-Man and Daredevil. Like I really did have kind of an emotional reaction thinking about, oh God, the doors this opens for Daredevil, that these tournaments that you don't know that he's been in, all of my runs of Daredevil are going to be sourced from this now. Like, I can't believe this might be as like a Miller, Bendis, Brubaker, Wade purist as that guy who thought that Zdarsky was the second coming. I think this did for Daredevil what that first animated Spider-Verse did for Spider-Man. I just really think this is one of the greatest things that they've ever done for Spider canon. Daredevil canon. I just really love that Spider-Man, this elevated point, shows Daredevil to be the subordinate to, such that Daredevil and Bullseye in their red and black and white are elevated to Spider-Man versus Venom, essentially. It's why I was so excited to cover it with you, because like this is one of the most special Daredevil things I've ever read in my life, and I get to share it with you, and that's amazing.
I agree with everything you're saying, and I think the one thing that you said where I was like, I totally agree, and I'm pulling back slightly because this is just a coin toss. It's not that it couldn't go this way, it's that it's not guaranteed. Is that idea that like in 2 years they'll be pulling from this and not not Daredevil by Ahmed. My dream is that they pull from this. My dream is that this is really established canon, and that we Funhouse / Spider Girl is a standard, like is a solid character, and Bailey gets his next writer who isn't just his creator, and somebody remembers that.
Well, he's in like 8 books right now, dude. He's in Daredevil, Kid, Deadpool. No, I'm sorry. Oh my God, see that's the problem. He's in Spider-Boy, Kid, Deadpool. He's in New Champions. He's in the Infinity comics. Yeah,
I'm waiting specifically for Spider-Boy, the next book.
I love that. That's a really great point.
And I'm glad he's getting all the. I'm fine with him getting all these. Glad is not the right word, but I think it could be cool. I love your point. Like, little 14-year-olds are shitty, and little 14-year-olds reading who are shitty little kids should have their shitty little mascot character, in the exact same way that, like, as a soon-to-be 40-year-old, Charles Xavier's my shitty little character that I'm like, I'm gonna do war crimes one day. Just give me time. But it'll turn out I didn't do them at all, and I'm a great person. I just made you think I did for your own good.
It was just that one Infinity comic, and otherwise you're a really good person.
There you go. And all the other times that you were horrible. But yeah, I mean, like, I don't know. I'm really down for this to be a thing. Even though Slott is a polarizing figure. I think he did good work here. I like this Daredevil and Bullseye. It feels a lot more accessible than the other Daredevil and Bullseye. This feels like the funnest Second City Groundlings improv show you've ever been to, that you're just going to talk about and laugh about and think about forever. And Ahmed is Strindberg. Is it amazing writing? Yeah. Might you see a phenomenal performance of it? Yeah. Do you really want to revisit it per se? Like, no. Did it teach you something? I guess, but like, joy.
Wait, is joy important? I don't know. Marvel Comics has never seemed particularly concerned with joy.
I don't know. When we met, and 2019 until relatively recently felt like a more joyous time, a more fun time in comics. And I'm not just talking about Krakoa. I'm even talking about things like, it's not particularly joyous, I guess, in theme, but like the Aaron run really felt like a celebration of what makes Avengers. And there was like a kind of joy to it. Like even something like Enter the Phoenix, which was so like such a eye roll for so many people, there was a kind of joy, like even just the visual and artistic joy of seeing what every single character that like every big character, what they would look like with their Phoenix gear on. Because do I want them to be a Phoenix all the time? No. But is it cool just to see Black Panther Phoenix once? Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
Because someone's going to draw it on Instagram, so you can either give in and be part of the game or not.
Right. So yeah, I mean, I wish Marvel found the joy more consistently, and it wasn't such like we all know that conflict breeds interesting stories, so at a certain point we just hit peak conflict and nobody ever smiles. But that does feel like where we are right now, with some very notable exceptions, and this is one of them. And I hope it sort of leads other people to get into the idea of joy.
The thing that this gave me, I guess, a sense of excitement for when it comes to Daredevil is we often think of Daredevil as a supporting character in other people's big arcs, but it kind of sounds like Spider-Boy was the supporting character to Daredevil's big arc here, and at the same time, the way that elevates Daredevil in the Spider mythos, that a Spider character could play second string. There's all of these rumors going around that the next big Spider-Man movie featuring Tom Holland is going to be some iteration of Devil's Reign. And, I think there's a double-edged sword in how handsome Charlie Cox is. It's part of what has made Daredevil such an accessible thing. But at the same time, like, I love Matt Murdock, and I think Matt Murdock's really handsome, but I also think he's kind of like, probably supposed to look a little bit pugilistic and a little broken. And so this idea that he's going to be this beautiful golden boy standing up next to beautiful golden boy Tom Holland, and that they could share Devil's Reign, I feel like this is such a statement that is a true potentiality, and Marvel doesn't put guys like Dan Slott on anything. They put him on things. So considering this is the guy who brought back the Inheritors, the guy who did all of the Spider-Verse stuff in the first place, the guy who came up with Superior Spider-Man, the guy who did, oh God, what was his event? Mighty Avengers during the Bendis run, the only person to have an Avengers title that wasn't Bendis during the Bendis era. I think that this is going to be something to watch. I hope that this plays as big a role in Daredevil's ongoing narrative as things like The Hand do, because let's open that up a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I fully agree. I'm very interested to see where this goes for Daredevil for sure. And like at this point, I am Bailey's sticking around, Spider-Boy is sticking around. Not a bad thing. It's actually Slott did the work to make the character.
Yes, that's what it is. Yes, excellent.
You know, this is 15.
Yeah, this is 15, and it turns out the arc ends in 16, even though solicits made it seem like it was this one.
Is the book continuing?
Yeah, the book is solicited through 19.
Yeah, so it'll probably go to at least 24.
I agree.
Which, like, yeah, okay, sure. It's not easy to fully develop a character like this and make them feel substantial. I do think he did that. Again, my thing is like let's end this book at 24, and then who's writing Bailey substantially next, and what's the climate like for that? Who is this for? Who I'm dying to meet a 14-year-old who's like, yeah, I saw this. I watched the Spider-Verse movies. I had seen the Tom Holland Spider-Man films, and then I picked up Spider-Boy, and that's my guy.
No, we both know exactly what 46-year-old man who is, LARPing Spider-Boy this is for.
Yeah, I fucking know, but
because that's even the thing that I want to really touch on when they say that kids read these books and they want to see themselves. Yes, but kids also love to imagine what it's going to be like when they're 3, 4, and 5 years older. Not necessarily 42, but 18.
Which again, why Miles Morales is the one. Yes. No, you are right.
Yeah, nobody's coming for Spider-Boy because they're imagining what it's going to be like when they're 14 years old. They're imagining when they're out of acne, thank you.
Yeah.
So, I'm gonna give this Spider-Boy arc an A-. I think I have to give Spider-Boy as a title a B-. I don't love all of the conceits. His mother was a cat. That's fucking dumb. I don't like it. There's another.
But again,
weird...
he's buying that. That was one place where I was like, this is. I don't know.
The Animoids.
Yeah, but okay, so two things there. He tied it to the High Evolutionary.
He did.
And like the idea that somebody out there would be like, I can do this too. So I bought in, and then the mom abandoning the other spider child because Bailey was the real one. To me, I was like, that's fucking horrible, and we're just gonna gloss over that. And the fact that the kid, the horrible spider monster
showed
child,
up this issue,
to be like, you're gonna fucking acknowledge me. Yeah, again, this is when I say doing the work, that you can piss me off a lot if you make these decisions and then you go like, no, they actually do have ramifications. I didn't just put this in so I could have conflict in one book and then never bring it up again. It's weird. I don't know that it's perfect, but like, what's her, the lady who wants to be the High Evolutionary, like now I'm into her as a villain, because the High Evolutionary, they're always like, well, you gotta go call him, send him a fax, and he's got to get on his spaceship and come down to Earth. So like the fact that there's some lady who's like, I'm just doing this, I'm on my grind.
I just need you to know that the description you just gave is that the High Evolutionary has one friend, and it's Christopher Walken.
That feels 100% accurate.
I cannot. The two of them just play mahjong.
Yeah.
Yep. That sucks.
And he communicates him with him via fax. Like that's how he asked him for an appointment.
It's true. I have a really great Natalie Wood joke, but I will spare you all.
Right, we got to get over to DC.
But anyway,
for me, I'm gonna give this arc a B plus, and same B minus for the book overall. But you know, I mean, I've come down real hard on Slott for previous stuff lately, so B minus is a great place to be.
Because there are just writers that I don't like. I'm sorry about it, but there are writers I don't like, and I think Dan Slott is not exactly on that list. He's someone who I oscillate between loving obsessively, like She-Hulk, and not being sure what to think, like some of his later Spider-Verse work. But when I think about people who never let me down with their intent, but sometimes let me down with the execution, Sina Grace is a mastermind. I mean, we're talking about one of the greatest writers of his era, and really has the credentials, the awards shelf, and the Wikipedia to back it up. But one of the things that this Lex in the City story left me without was a purpose. This Lex in the City collection of stories that referenced the I Know What You Did Last Summer Nightwing vibe that we talked about previously. I love this collection of stories. This anthology format is great, but this one was by far my least favorite of all of the ones we've read.
The anthology itself?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is a Valentine's Day anthology. This should have been released in February. This should have been released next week. Not the end of the world. I mean, you know, we do Christmas stuff plenty earlier, but that nobody editorially saw this being released at the same day as the Lex Luthor Special and thought it just doesn't vibe. Because the only thing is, it's called Lex in the City because it's a Sex in the City pun, because it is a collection of love stories and they have Lex. So sure, I think it's a funny joke, but when Nico built the schedule for this week and put these two on here, I really didn't. I was like, oh, they're doing something with Lex Luthor.
Same. I thought this. I even thought these two issues might be connected. With polar opposites.
Yeah. And so we're also going to talk about the Lex Luthor Special, which came out today, which is just like in universe, some important updates on what's going on with Lex Luthor. Great fun. I can't wait to talk about it. This is an anthology, a Valentine's Day anthology based on the pun of Lex and sex, which. Okay, like that I'm fine. I think that's funny. I'm here for a Valentine's Day anthology. I actually more than anything, I believe I looked at the schedule and Marvel does not have any kind of Valentine's Day anthology. And I like, you know, but Marvel tends to do more romance stuff anyway. So if they don't have a Valentine's Day anthology, it's fine, because they have like, you know, they have Marvel Unlimited romance, and they do a bunch of relationship books. So if they don't do a Valentine's Day anthology, that's fine.
And name one storyline for like characters like Wiccan and Hulkling that haven't been romance based in the last 10 years.
Exactly. Even Gambit and Rogue. But so this is another one of those times where I think, me being in my first year of regular DC readership, I got to have a little more fun with this than you did, in terms of just broadly the idea of the stories. Where I don't think either of us had fun is that this book is 4,000 pages long.
It's like seriously 88 pages.
Yeah, it's really, which is I love a value. So sure. But this is maybe into the territory of less is, or more is not more. Less would have been more. I don't know. I don't know how much I would have liked to have paid for this, but I liked the Cena Gray story. The Hawk people story is the one I did not care about. That's like the last one, or the second to last one.
It's the last one, and the painterly style. It's just
Yeah.
a little too like dated 1996 Vertigo to feel good.
And then I liked the Raven and Beast Boy story. It's really cute, but that was hitting that story was where I was like, this has gone on too long. This has been going on too long.
Have you ever been on a really great first date that feels really terrible when it feels like you've hit the third, fourth, and fifth date because it just won't end? That was this special.
I can't do that, so I get out of it. It's never happened to me because I get out of there.
I used to call my husband and be like, please rescue me, please save me from this date.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, even if the date was going amazing and went on too long, and me cutting it off is going to ruin things, I cannot be somewhere where I don't want to be for too long, and I've done that. So yeah, this did go on a little too long. The Raven story is where I got there, and then the Hawk people story killed me even more because I was just so ready to be done. The other thing is my only real experience with Raven is Titans, where Brother Blood is her brother. So I was confused for a moment. And maybe turned on. I don't know. My favorite ship is Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver, so who knows? But yeah, I don't know. I didn't know what was going on when I started reading the Lex Luthor story. So I was like, oh, this is like gonna be a cute story about how he like what?
Okay. If you say my favorite ship is Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver, everybody goes LOL, Eastern Europe.
No, most people yell at me on the internet, but continue.
But what if you said your favorite ship was Laura and Akihiro? I feel like you would have to be really you would have to be confused about what level it's offensive.
So my thing is, so many people it's like making two characters gay. So many people inadvertently made Wanda and Quicksilver really incestuous, starting in the 60s, like starting right from the get-go. He's just too possessive of her. She leans on him too much. And it became really funny to me when Ultimates capitalized on that. The
Jeff
thing about
Loeb in his
insane pervert man and Brian Hitch enabling him
era. Yes.
Yeah. Akihiro and Laura don't have that kind of chemistry and never have. Nobody has ever even accidentally written them like that. They don't touch very often.
Yeah, I guess RuPaul and Andy Warhol would have absolutely no sexual chemistry even if they were in the same porn film together.
Yeah.
Because all of X-Men is a porn film at one point or another.
100%. But some combinations, just even if they're on the screen together, that does not mean they're going to fuck. But for me, Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver are one of them. And maybe Raven and Brother Blood could be too. I gotta look into that. This is all new for me, guys. I'm on a journey here. I did not know that this was the book that it was when I opened up this Cena Gray story.
This is not the comedy we intended when this night began.
So I was like, oh, this is my first hint of this, whatever's going on with Lex Luthor. And then, no, it's just like a story about how he took a reporter on a date and she was like, oh, yeah, you're still a fucking bag of dicks. And he was like, good for you, flowers.
Well, just when people are like, oh, the obvious comparison for Lex Luthor is Donald Trump, I'm like, absolutely not. Lex Luthor is interesting. I think that
also smart
or fascinating to read.
Also, like, come on. I mean, not when it's John Cryer, but a lot of the time, very hot.
Oh, in the
Michael,
in the
what's his name?
Oh my God!
Oh, in the special, don't even get me started.
The literal body I'm trying to achieve every day of my life.
Yeah.
But part of where I kind of found myself feeling connected to the character here is, I think Lex Luthor really is just John Hamm. he doesn't want to talk about his super dick because there's a guy with an even super dick, and it really bugs him. And
Who's
so
John Hamm's Superman?
I don't know, but it's clearly got him down. Maybe it's Tina Fey. And so,
Let's have a bigger dick.
John Hamm would play, I think, the greatest Lex Luthor. And I really think
they gotta stop hiring these
young baby boys.
Yeah, Jesse Eisenberg, terrible. I like Nicholas Hoult. I've not liked his casting in any superhero movies, including I do not love this one.
Having just seen Nicholas Hoult in Nosferatu, I think he is a guy who does period pieces and surrendering to the idea of when and where he is so well that his Lex Luthor can't help but be good, no matter what it is.
Well, it's funny that you say that because as soon as you said Nosferatu, how old is Bill Skarsgård? He's about the same age as David Corenswet. Bill Skarsgård, to me, would have been a really plausible Lex Luthor in terms of gravitas, in terms of like... Because a big thing for me is like, why are you a baldo? You know what I mean? Like, sometimes... Nicholas Hoult, it's like, okay, did you shave your head? Did they put a bald cap on? Like, why can't you hire somebody who's going to embody the fact that Lex Luthor has no hair, which is an identifying physical mark for him?
I'm bald because they gave me so much charisma and talent. They had to take my hair to balance it out. It was just to be fair.
Fully, I mean, I have a full head of hair because I don't have that other stuff.
I do love your hair.
It's very full.
It's
still very bleached. You gotta convince, like... You can't just put a bald cap on a man and have him twiddle his thumbs. You got to embody it. And Bill Skarsgård has embodied so much about villainous people. And Nicholas Hoult just hasn't. I don't know. You might be right. I'll be interested to see how it turns out. I don't think we got any shots of Lex Luthor in the trailer. Or like maybe we got a behind, like we got him looking out a window.
So I may be right. You may be crazy. Nicholas Hoult just may be the lunatic that we're looking for. But until we're on Dave's world, I thought that the standout story here was a little eye-rolling obvious. I am not Nick. Just Timescales asked me to do a Dalek voice and say I am not Nick real quick.
I love it. The story we got a gay man writing a story that's not gay specific and only mentions gay people one time. I think that's a Bowen Yang, and I think that's a Las Culturistas reference.
Wait, you think it's a Bowen Yang? So you think it's hugging a transphobe on the set of SNL?
No, I think it's a Las Culturistas reference. Who did he hug?
Dave Chappelle. Like everything's and they're best friends. Like a guy who has seriously gone after the trans community repeatedly is no big deal.
No, I thought the reference to the gay people with the podcast who are beating this reporter was a Las Culturistas reference, but it's also very generic.
I do want to say that the story that really made me the happiest was the Damian story.
Yeah, that was great.
Damian Wayne is a really hard character because some people write him like earlier we were talking about how 14-year-olds are the worst.
Yeah, and we've talked about this thing that you're about to say with Damian a bunch too.
Yeah, he's written as like a precocious bad boy, and like there is such a fine line between precocious bad boy and I hate you, never be on my screen again.
Well, I was gonna say they write him a lot of times like he is Stewie from Family Guy, like he is essentially like not even double digits yet, but really evil and really capable. Or they're like, no, we would like him to be 18. We know canonically he can't be, but he will be drawn and behave as though he is essentially an adult.
But they don't want him. They don't want him 18 because they want him to be
kid. Robbie. Because all the other ones are adults.
Yeah, no, they want him to be 18 because if he commits an insane number of murders, they want it to be completely forgivable.
Right. And this story was great because again, he feels about 14, but a very precocious 14, a very different situation than your Bailey. And Tim feels 18 to 20-ish. Tim feels young enough that a 14-year-old would still find him accessible and still believe that he knows about the dating world that the 14-year-old will be in, but not so adult that it's like talking to your uncle. It is definitely Big Brother. And that's a tough balance to pull off. Tim's boyfriend is ugly. Tim should have a hotter boyfriend. You should have drawn Tim's boyfriend hotter.
Okay,
why is he dressed like that? I hate this person.
I see all the time people be like, no, opposites attract, and they sure do. You know what? I think about the fact that for every gay couple that are mistaken for brothers, there's a Paula Abdul and MC Scat Cat. You know, and they couldn't look less similar, even though they're both kind of catty. But one of the things that I do think that comics has sought to do a little too hard is sometimes create relationships that look dynamically different on the page so that you never need to feel a certain way. But I'll be honest, I don't necessarily go for masked dudes. There are a lot of like sexy twinks that I think are just so hot, and I definitely flirt super hard, but every guy I flirt with does not look the exact opposite of me in every way. I also love bald guys. I also love fuzzy guys. I love muscular guys. I love chubby guys. And trust me, there are times where the stomach sticks out. So like, I think that this hyper focus on within comics always showing relationships being as dynamically opposite as possible doesn't always serve the story. I find that is the case with Tim and John, and those are two characters that I love with all my heart. Those are two characters that I would follow to the edge of the desert, and I don't know that I think that they are both serviced by exclusively having queer relationships that challenge what they look like.
Yes to all of that. I'm really stuck on just how unattractive this person is. I think John's boyfriend is adorable. And to me, they're much more opposite.
Well, because it looks like your marriage.
A little. I mean, yeah, I hear what you're saying. To me, that is a little bit more like, oh yeah, it's his kooky boyfriend. This is just like a, I don't know. Why does he look like that? Why is his hair like that? I hate him anyway, but really rooting for them though. I hope this goes great. Does he have powers? No. Does he do stuff?
No
stuff.
Nothing I know of.
Okay, I'll be Googling this later.
No, and also, like, that's one of the things that gets so difficult about DC, especially when so many characters have the same name or the same code name. You kind of got to go to Google, and then you got to put in, like, Earth Prime, okay, Earth 1, Earth 2.
Yep.
Crisis on Indeterminate Earth, hot gay, and just hope for the best.
Wow, this guy is like canonically ugly. What is going on here? Oh, okay. Oh man, I got so much to prey on. So, this character was absolutely on Titans, but he was very cute there.
I can't believe that you have actually, there are very few people who can convince me to do anything in this entire world, but TK is one of them, and I'm gonna watch Titans for this gentleman.
Listen, I'll tell you right again, I say it all the time, I did not tell you to watch Grey's Anatomy. I'm not taking responsibility for that. I am telling you to watch Titans. I think you might think it's really cute. If you hate me at the end of that, I will not blame you at all. But I don't know, man. I mean, also just like every day, the idea of Minka Kelly and Alan Richardson having sex gets me up in the morning, let alone being Hawk and Dove.
TK?
Yeah.
How many albums have you listened to for me and made no big deal about it?
Oh, all of them. All of the albums.
All of them. Okay.
All of the albums. Also, hold on. Do you know who Dove's mom is?
I can only hope that it's Dove Cameron's mom, but hold on. Okay. How many albums have I explicitly been like, listen to this or I'll die? Maybe 130. So like you've listened to at least 773 albums.
I did tell myself I was not going to listen to Mariah Carey anymore, and I have listened to quite a lot of Mariah Carey.
Okay, well, shock is on you. Jonah and Kevo came to me and said, listen, this Vegas trip for your birthday, what if we extended it one day and we all went to the Mariah Carey show on Valentine's Day at the MGM Resort? So we fly into Vegas on the 11th. We see Janet on the 12th. We go to Drag Race on the 13th. We see Mariah on the 14th. And we fly home on the 15th. So listen, trust me, I never thought I would see so many Mimi records all at once either. But I'm just so excited. But the thing that I think, you know, you didn't say watch Grey's Anatomy like if I didn't, I was in trouble. But you said, no, please don't watch it. And
no, I specifically was like, I take no ownership of the show. I'm obsessed with it, but I cannot recommend it to anybody.
It is my husband and my religion now. And
yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm stoked that you liked it. I'm never going to take ownership.
Grey, Private, and Station are our holy trinity, and you can't have it.
A reminder to check out our Grey's Anatomy and 911 dual coverage this March on X's for Show on our YouTube channel. We're super stoked. You don't have to.
You don't have
to. I'm not going to walk into this uninformed.
PK, listen. No one's asking you to watch 911.
I'm going to slap you right in the mouth.
I think it'd be really funny if you only watch the ABC seasons, but that's just me.
I will consider that. All the boys storyline, guys, nobody in the production of this fucking story was like, this is the gayest thing I've ever written, I've ever drawn, I've ever edited, I've ever lettered, I've ever helped letter and edit. What the fuck? I mean, don't get me wrong, I had a blast with it, but like, Serge Acuna, incredible artist. DC really gets better people to draw hot people, and it's great, but this was so gay, and they keep trying to be like, oh, that waitress likes you. Don't care that the waitress likes you. You all just want to kiss each other. Anyway, that's all I have to say about that. That's my last thought on this issue. Is there should have been a romance. There should have been a confirmed 4-way between Kid Flash, Kid Green Arrow, Kid Batman, also known as Robin, and Kid Aqua, Kid Lad, Baby Boy.
You know, you have too many hot friends and they all go to the same party and you're like, oh no, that party in my mind is this thing forever. Oh no, that was this issue. I thought that this issue did so many amazing romantic things across so many characters that I care about. Honestly, Harley and Ivy, I feel like, are two characters that are often relegated to the idea of sexy ladies, but the romance here, it was extraordinary. And
yeah, it was really cute and really sweet.
Okay. To be really honest with you, the Lex special probably should have just been Superman 23-point Lex.
Yes.
But for the art alone was worth my time, worth my effort. I actually really enjoyed all of the studies in how music changes you. I don't know. I wish I'd been reading Superman, but the Lex special really held my attention for the 20 minutes it took to read.
So that's helpful. So Lex losing all his memories was not in absolute power, right?
No, it was in House of Brainiac.
Which came before.
By like a month.
And also that lady is House of Brainiac.
That Queen Brainiac is the...
They call her House of Brainiac like 3 times.
Yes, she's the same Queen Brainiac in both volumes.
Okay, cool. So, but he was already on a road to redemption. You don't know because you didn't read it either.
I read it, but was he on a road to redemption or was he Lex Luthor?
I don't know. I mean, like, DC doesn't do the Marvel thing of like fully moving people over for big chunks of time.
No. Oh, no. It's a couple of issues.
Yeah. Like, I mean, that's the only reason I'm so worried about Jadestone is because he's actually technically a fucking Amazo. And I'm like, no, this is a good guy. Do not make him be...
I don't know, 8 months? That might be long enough because, like, he was never like, oh, Amazo 137. He was never like, oh, this super
he
cool
was
Amazo.
Generically an Amazo. Yeah, no, I know. You are right about that.
I hope.
We'll see. But so I don't know. I loved the era of slow creep for villains into, at worst, nebulous zone that happened at Marvel. That's how we got Emma Frost where she is. That's how we got Magneto where he is.
Did you see the image that's asked to bring Coke to a party, and Emma Frost brings cocaine, Scott Summers brings Pepsi, and Jean Grey brings Coca-Cola Classic? And I'm like, this is literally the most accurate thing as a Jean Grey. This is literally, I would be hanging out with Emma the whole night, but as a Jean Grey,
as an Emma in this particular case.
And then Kevo is our Scott. Wave hi, Scott.
Hi, Scott.
Yeah,
he does actually prefer Pepsi.
As one should.
Oh, I do, but I wouldn't bring it if I was told to bring Coke. I'm not that stupid.
You should do that.
Coke is better than Pepsi.
I personally agree, but if somebody says bring Coke and I like Pepsi, I'm bringing Pepsi, and I'm bringing Coke, but I'm bringing Pepsi, and you drink what I brought for you. Yeah. Anyway, I love that era. You know, that's how we got Elektra Daredevil. You know, so I have noticed on the peripheries and just looking out the side of my eye that does not happen really as much at DC / at all. I guess kind of with Harley and like Ivy, but it also happened kind of later, and I don't know, like it's so easy to still put Harley in a villain role if you want to do it, whether it's like just kind of a side story or something. Emma, it's like you're probably, if she's in a video game, she's probably an X-Man. So I don't know. This was a cool special. Lex looks very hot the whole time. Colorist, I don't know why you thought let's make the beard pink, but for me it worked. I just sort of, again, editorially, if I'm editing this, I probably tell you that you have to make it redder. But I personally loved it. I just don't really know the reasoning. Very pink red beard. But anyway, he looked very handsome. I can never not think of John Glover when we talk about Lionel Luthor. Are you frozen? No, yeah, you're frozen. Okay. We're going to come back in a second, and then we'll talk about John Glover in Smallville. Go. You're back.
I am back. When I think about Smallville, I automatically think about John Schneider, the visual, not the human. But that's totally fine. No, the other thing that I thought was really interesting was that DC chose to release 2 books with Lex Luthor in the title in the same week.
Yeah,
I wonder if they thought that by somehow combining these 2 titles together, you would get people who thought that the Valentine's Day special was somehow connected to the current Superman run and vice versa. And for me, it kind of brought both books down to a B-. This was 120 something pages of my life I'll never get back. And it felt interminable between the covers and the back matter. Also, Mr. Superfast Gamer, I see you have a question about Sonic the Hedgehog. Please throw it in the chat whenever you're ready. We do in fact have many thoughts about the tiny blue mammal that goes very, very fast. But the end of the day, I think these 2 books, had they been released a week apart, you know, TK, to your credit, as you said earlier, if the Lex in the City had been released in February, it would have felt like a Valentine's Day special, not like a book in January about people trying to fuck.
Yeah. I would not have released these on the same day. I don't know what the thinking was here. I don't know if there was more of a strategy, kind of like you said, if it was kind of like they'll pick up the one if we print them both together, like one that's not going to do as well, we'll do better. But I don't think it served either book particularly well, because the Lex one, for all that, for the actual Lex Luthor special, not the Valentine's anthology, the Lex Luthor special is kind of pretty relevant to current goings on in All In. This is like the first we've heard about the alternate universe that got created as a result of the Darkseid situation and the fact that they're trying to communicate with it. Because actually, up until reading this, I sort of thought they didn't realize that that's what happened.
You know, I wasn't sure if it was in stuff that we just hadn't covered, because I feel like there's like a good 1/3 of DC we've avoided because it hasn't had a new #1 yet. But trust me, when Flash gets a new #1, I guess we're going to read that.
Well, and you know, I think we'll be reading a lot of the other absolutes as well. We should probably do an absolute and ultimate catch-up week sometime soon.
I agree.
But yeah, I mean, maybe it has come up somewhere, but I don't know. We've also still read a bunch of stuff, like a point like that, the point of like that there's this whole other universe and they're aware of it. That's one of those things that you would think would come up repeatedly, but I don't know whether it has or hasn't. Maybe we've just accidentally missed everything that it's in. Totally plausible. There's a lot of books that come out, but it was important here. And also I really, as you mentioned, I did love how music was really a big part of this. And I don't know, it was, for me, as somebody who is like, again, Smallville and the Luthor family is like one of the way. I don't know comics Lex Luthor very well at all. And so this was a nice little intimate get together with my old villain friend. Which is funny because, you know, Lex in the City is actually trying to sell this idea of intimacy with these characters, and it's so, for the case of the Lex story, Cena Grace, in the best possible way, it's so surface. It's so like again, it kind of has that pop art iconographic thing going on, but like there's no takeaway from this that is like I deeply understand Lex Luthor in a way that I didn't afterwards. And I do feel like or that I didn't before. I do feel like I sort of have a little bit better understanding of the Robin brothers relationship as a result of reading that story. And even though I think that is an incorrect understanding of how all of the Justice teens relate to each other, I have an understanding of the fact that they go to a beach, and I think they do different things at that beach than the author does. Let Cena Grace write that story, please.
And, you know, the other thing that I think winds up happening with the DC universe is what point at which you jumped into it.
Yeah.
You know, the DC universe, like you said, it doesn't really do iterations of characters. So when you have a character like Hal Jordan, who was Parallax for like 3 or 4 years, that is such a significant moment in DC history. Of course, so many writers have come back to Parallax over the years. You know, I did some research on the Power Company that existed before this, and then I read about these characters to be sure. The original Power Company was a little bit more like, what if Black creators and Black voices had an opportunity to influence things, but it was not what if Black people were Black. This is what if Black people were Black. I don't feel that I have the authority to really speak on this topic. I don't feel like I even had the authority to speak on Storm earlier, but I have the authority to speak on X-Men as like a franchise, and I have the authority to speak on like Green Lantern as a franchise. And if Joe to Far Sector and Green Lantern is any indication as to what Steel is to Superman and so much more, as was explored by this one shot, yes, please. These are some characters that I can't wait to see show up in Black Lightning. I know we covered the first issue. I've been reading the series as it's been going, but I feel like they said that they're going to show back up in Black Lightning #4. I can't wait. I had a great time with this. Though I did feel like for what I got from the characters I didn't know, I might as well have been reading all new appearances of all new characters. So I don't know enough about the iteration of some of these characters, but I was thoroughly impressed for what this one was like 32 pages. I was thoroughly impressed for the entire run of this book. Definite B+ for me.
Yeah, this was, if we compare the two anthologies that are specifically centered around Black characters and Black creators, this one feels much more like an anthology where everybody kind of got to do their thing and tell their specific story, and put more of a stamp on it. I am not really clear, and this is not this in this particular case. I'm not even saying that this is not a critique. I'm really saying I might be missing something because I don't know enough about DC. I'm not clear on how or why a lot of the characters were part of this from an in-universe standpoint. I get that out of universe, they're all Black characters, and it's cool to see them interacting. And be written by Black creators, but in universe, I wasn't sort of clear what the thread was for why Josiah Power was interested in all of them together, or what the nature of the interaction was.
Because like Joe didn't exist when the original Power Company existed.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
And for me, again, it's the fear that I have of like, if this is the book for Black History Month, like this is the anthology book for Black History Month. Love that. There should be one. This feels like a bigger undertaking. Josiah Power meeting with all these heroes feels like a bigger undertaking than a single anthology issue for Black History Month. Like, this could just be Black characters coming together, and like it would even, from a company standpoint, letting a Black character say, "I would like to talk to the other Black superheroes," rather than like kind of dancing around it and being like, "I don't know how the only people I decided to talk to are the other Black superheroes." Like, we can be real about that. As a gay person, there are plenty of times where I go, I would like to talk to the other gay people about this. I do not want heterosexual input on this particular thing. I'm gay. I know other gay people know and it's things where I'm sure heterosexual people can contribute. Like, I'm talking, it's creative projects. There's a lot of times where I just want to talk to my community. And I think in superhero books, we shy away from that so much, but it's such a believable thing.
We fear that people will only want to save people who seem like them. And
Right.
That's not the truth of superheroes. That's the truth of voting districts.
Yep.
One of the things that I was not expecting about the Power Company is I was not expecting to get to see characters like Joe. I was not expecting to see characters that I love so much, who mean so much to me, that aren't Power Company characters. I was also not expecting to fall for characters that I didn't know so well, like Josiah Power, who was not somebody that I knew so well. And then there were Black characters that I felt I was kind of denied seeing here, because DC has so many amazing Black characters. It's hard to see Cyborg and Mr. Terrific and Nubia every issue. So you've kind of got to make your choices about who can fit in any specific one shot. This was, like I said, a real B+, a real good time. But I feel oftentimes like I don't know what I'm looking at from the solicit, and Marvel is better about let's go with I'm sure they're like kind of like smoke screeny solicits. Like, Marvel is like, this is what's in the book. If you like it, you like it, and if you don't, fine. And DC is kind of like, oh, but what's in the book? And like, where Marvel has the edge on this week a little bit better is I knew I was getting a random Spider-Boy arc featuring Daredevil that wound up being really important. I knew I was getting a fun one-shot featuring Storm that wound up being magical. From DC, I feel a little bit like I was sold one bill of goods and got another set of products. And that's where I think for this week, Marvel is getting the B+ and DC's getting the B-.
For me, I think Marvel's getting a B+ and DC's getting just a B. Before I forget, is the Signal in another universe?
No, Signal is our Signal. That's
who,
a character
who
I
is
love.
That Batman.
I have to be honest. I don't know who his Batman is, but I love Signal.
Yeah, but
that's the character that is the main character introduced in the beginning of Wayne Family Adventures.
Yeah, and I'm aware of who it is. And I saw him in Absolute Power.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah.
I don't understand why there's a black Batman. This is what I'm getting at. And I love that there's a black Batman. There should be a black Batman. Is that just a guy? What's happening here?
And that's one of the things that winds up happening for both you and I when it comes to trying to catch up on DC stuff.
Yeah.
I know so much DC and I'm so proud of it, but you know what? I know so much DC and I'm so proud of it for a person who knows comics. If I were a DC Comics guy, I would be a baby. But,
yeah.
My Marvel Comics knowledge is prodigious.
Right.
And so,
So I don't know if that was a thing
Yeah.
I don't know about, or if this is an anthology, and so because that.
But if it was Black Daredevil, I would know who he was.
Right. Well, or you would know that it wasn't Daredevil. If you saw Black Daredevil with no other explanation, unless they said something, you would say, "Oh yeah, I guess they just did an alternate universe story." I don't know who that character was, who the Black Batman was. And because this is an anthology story, that Harlequin and Ivy are probably not the Harlequin and Ivy of main continuity. They could be. It sort of doesn't matter, but also doesn't really feel like them. And it's the same thing with a bunch of the stories there. You can kind of tell this was for the Power Company. It was a little different because mostly the story is an anthology with a through line, and the through line is Josiah Power is kind of looking over everybody, trying to figure out who would be appropriate for the Power Company and who he's kind of trying to surround himself with and connect with. And then the Signal is hanging out with the Black Batman. I would like for that to be really relevant, but I don't know what to do with it without any other explanation.
And I know that there was a miniseries done it might have even been last year, but there was a miniseries with a Black Batman, and I really wonder if this is a reference to that we're missing.
Absolutely could be. Maybe an editor's note, guys, because I'm into it.
Oh, I'm here for it, exactly.
Yeah, but I also Black Batman is a tough thing to go search. I don't, for the sake of your I would go do the research because I do comics and I want to do comics professionally. So I'm willing to spend the time. Your average reader is going to not necessarily get what's going on here. So I don't know. It feels like an editor's note would have been pretty cool. But I mean, it was otherwise very cool, and I really liked their interaction. Yeah, I just want to be able to do more with it.
And that's even part of what winds up happening with comics, having had a trillion years of canon, a trillion years of experience, a trillion years of readership. Hard to say, because what winds up happening is there are so many iterations that people are pulling back to. Like Zur-En-Arrh is such a minor moment in the history of Batman, but Grant Morrison has made it such a humongous thing that led Chip Zdarsky making it such a big thing. And the idea that this is a central moment in the history of Batman that maybe we're just missing, that would so improve reading this story, is so exciting. And It is why I am so into these one-shots, even when Lex in the City isn't exciting. Even when Rise of the Power Company leaves a few things on the table that I would love a little bit more of. And even when Storm Lifedream is missing newness in favor of familiar trails. I'm still excited about the possibility of what's going to come out of this. We talked about how Spider-Boy didn't do anything new. He revisited classic ideas in Daredevil and Spider-Man, and yet at the same time did something so exciting that we're excited to see where it goes in the future. I don't know about you, but I had a great time with this week. You know, my B+ and B-, that's an average of a B. If you're walking away from a week of comics feeling like everything was on the whole, 85% good, you're having a good week. TK, I would love to know what it was that you thought was the best book of the week, whether it was something we talked about or something we didn't get to talk about yet.
I do think it was probably Storm for me. I'm really just, I loved celebrating all those creators, and I love celebrating this character. All of my critiques for basically all of the anthologies is really like, what are we doing with these? Like, this is about publishing. And I love that we talked about like kind of wanting anthologies from these companies a little bit more. Sorry to be a dick, but not like that. There's a way to do this. And when you print anthology issues like this, especially alongside a standard issue, it is kind of a reminder that something that offers a better value proposition for the buyer, but also for you guys producing the story, because just kind of being in this rat race of publishing single issues that like don't sell well enough. So now, the publisher's disappointed, the writer and artists and letterers and everybody who worked very hard creating the issue are very disappointed. Where if we all kind of combined our resources and put them all into a single book, that was a little more accessible, maybe everybody would do better, and we could have a party in every book and celebrate all of the creators in every book, instead of like I'm trying to constantly juggle who's writing what and what do I think about them. And like I always want to support Gail Simone and Eve Ewing. I like him, and I'm not trying to be a dick when I say this. I don't necessarily care about supporting Jed MacKay as much, but if they're all three being published in X magazine, then I'm going to celebrate Jed while also being really sure to financially put my weight behind.
It's X-Jed, it's X-Jed, it's X-Jed, it's X Magazine Jed, yay!
For me, he's not going to be the main focus of why I'm buying the book, but I'm going to be happy to know that the money's going to him. And for other people, I know for your standard boring cishet white man, they're going to be like, I love Jed MacKay. But they're still going to buy the issue, even though, Gail Simone and Eve Ewing are writing the other stories in it. So I don't know. Let's look at this model that was so heavily featured this week from both companies, play around with it a little more, and let's all agree that for the time being, for the foreseeable future, you are not going to outsell any manga. So ask yourself, what are we really doing here as a person, as a company that publishes graphic stories? And we'll build from there. That's what I got.
I love it. I think for me, the best week of the issue probably might have been Spider-Boy's arc, but not the issue. I really enjoyed reading the new issue of Green Lantern today, but that was also not like a home run in the issue. It was a home run by concept. I feel like I'm really enjoying January's concepts more than their issues. But until we come back to talk about more of the amazing stuff that we talk about on this show, Wednesdays, Sundays, and either Saturday or Friday or whenever the fuck we get on here. Kevo, where can everybody find you online when you're not just being producer extraordinaire?
You can find me on our usual weekly live TV broadcasts over on our YouTube channel, X's for Show. And you can find me on my socials at Kevo Really. That's KEVORELLY.
Well, we could not do this without you, Mr. Producer, and we love your contributions, even though you're not a regular comic reader, so thank you so much for everything you do.
I love listening to you guys talk about comics. It makes them very interesting, so thank you.
And while I certainly do not consider myself Spider-Boy, if there was somebody that I thought could take on the abilities of anybody in the room if they were near them, it's this guy next to me. And TK, while you are certainly not my Spider-Girl, because if you are anything, sir, you are Spider-Woman.
Spider-Boy, I've got the hat on to cover my other eyes.
Oh, I love that. But I love the way you are able to take on whatever the flavor is, whatever we are putting in front of us, whether it's DC, Marvel, we are diving into the specifics of DC, the complexities of Marvel or more. You find a way to engage with the idea so brightly, so excitedly, and that's what I really love. And so if everybody wants to follow you along, where can they find you on the interwebs?
You can find me right now mainly on Blue Sky at TK Accidental. Mr. Action, talk to me about what I'm listening to right now. Talk to me about your life, your goals, your action agenda.
Well, you guys can find me all over the interwebs at Nico Action, Nico Action, NICOACTION, and Nico Action Music. That's going to be Nico Action Music at NICOACTIONMUSIC. If you guys want to find out more about what it is that we do on this show, you guys can check us out at HTML. That's Husbands Talking More or Less. X is for podcast and X is for show. If you guys want to do something for us, comment, like, subscribe. That'd be really cool. But we really want you guys to do something for yourselves. Number one, stay safe. It's a spooky, crazy world out there. Number two, be brave, because who you are inside, that's the thing that we love so much, and we want to see that shine outside. But also remember to evolve daily. Who you were yesterday, incredible. Who you are today, amazors. But who you are tomorrow, that's uncanny. And we can't wait to see you then. So, just keep being beautiful, brave, bold, and we'll see you.